Hi everyone, this is Jay Johnson with dailytexture.com. Today I want to introduce you to the new collection, the Nature Splash collection, and show you how I work with some of these textures. Before we begin, let me show you a couple examples of some individual textures I've put up on the website. Okay, here's the first splash texture I did called Winter Splash, and my goal here was to get a little bit more energy and excitement into some of the photos I have to work with. I use this texture with this picture of a hawk, and as you can tell I blended the texture right over him to make him look as if he's emerging from the texture. It creates a nice um, work of art with some energy and sort of an abstract feel. The same texture I used here on this deer image, and I flipped the texture and desaturated it um, for this example, and worked the deer and some of the grass he was standing in with the texture. Let's go to another one here. This is Winter Splash 2, and I used this one with some eagle images I have because I have so many. They all start looking the same, and as you could tell I worked the texture right in over the bird, over his tail, to make it look as if the bird was emerging from the texture. And here's another example, and another example. And you see the texture just goes right over the main, part of the image so that it looks like as if it's emerging from it, becoming one with the texture. Just gives it a little bit more energy and excitement because of the heavy splashes and brush strokes I've used on these. Now let's go make one. Alright, let me turn these off and move them down to the bottom so they're out of the way. This is the first texture in the Nature Splash collection. It's number 1, and I have found an image of one of my songbirds here. Now I shoot the photos of my songbirds at my home in my special areas I have set up for my birds to come to, because I have the same things in these areas, such as this fence in this one, or certain branches and other ones. They tend to, even though they might be different birds or in different positions, they're all in the same environment, which is why I like to use the textures to give them a whole new look. Now I thought this coloring here might work well with the texture that I've chosen. And since this bird has a little movement going on with his open mouth and he was chattering, I thought it might work well with this kind of texture. The first thing I'm going to do is lower the opacity of the bird so I can see where I want to place him. I like to have my animals facing the other way, animals and birds, so I'm going to flip him around, and then I'm going to move him where I think I may want him. And let's see. I'm trying to line him up. There's a blue splash in the texture, or a green splash right here. So I'm trying to line him up where that might make sense if I decide to leave that in there. I might put him up a little higher, because I'm going to brush this away when I mask it. I'm working in Photo Fx Lab. This is the main host program that Topaz puts out to run all of the individual modules over here. I love to do my masking in here because you don't have to create a masking layer and do black and white paint and all that. You simply use the masking tab, and you've got brush value, which all the way to the left will remove what you want to remove, and all the way to the right will put it back on. Brush size, obviously that adjusts the size of the brush. Hardness I usually leave all the way down because I like a very soft transition. Flow is like opacity, and when I first start taking away background I'll move it all the way up, but then as I get to blending I'll move it down. Edge aware You can turn that up to so if you're going around the edges of something, it will pick it up. I find it makes it a little harsh sometimes, so I don't fool with that. I always leave edge aware all the way down, or almost all the way down. Anyway, we're going to start masking, or I am going to start masking away this bird's background to reveal the texture behind him. And as you can tell, because his background's green, this texture works real well with him. I'm going to go right over this fence and right across the bottom and right back up over here. I want to leave a hint of the fence because I don't want him looking like he's floating. I just want to work it in there. Now I'm going to lower the brush size and go around the edges of him closely, like this. Back here around his tail, under his beak. And I'm going to bring back some of his detail that I go over that I want to keep. And get in here a little bit too. Yeah, the nice thing about these textures is you don't have to be real specific because, at least for me, I want the texture to go right over the bird in some spots so he'll become one with it. Trying to get his beak away here. And get down here around his feet. And get here around this foot. I'm going to size this up a bit so I can get a little closer to his beak and bring back some of this. I'm going to lower the brush size down very small so I can see where I need to get to here to find that beak. There it is. With birds, the main thing you want to make sure that you have your attention on is the eyes and the beaks. Because that's the most important part. Okay, now we're going to get rid of the background right around the edge of the beak. Like this. I could use Topaz Remask for this. I usually don't have to with birds because it's not too much trouble for me to go around a beak or a bird body. I use it a lot with deer to go around their antlers just to make things go a little faster. There. Now let's yeah, it looks a little choppy. We'll fix that. At this point, I'm going to raise the brush size up just a little. I'm going to lower the flow, which is like opacity, so I can actually brush over the beak a little more. Take away some of this choppiness right here. And brush the texture right in, or brush the bird away so the texture comes right into him. Now this, I haven't done this ahead of time, so I'm not sure if this is going to work. And I'm going to now bring back some of the beak I just lost. Raise the flow up just a little. Like so. Get that little piece right there in his mouth, where his mouth is open. And then I'm going to take out just a little bit of that. That looks a little better. We're getting there. Alright, I'll lower the flow again, and I'm going to go right over this fence and this foot. I just want to leave a hint of the fact that it's there and he's sitting on something. And I'm going to brush this texture right over his feathers, or brush away his feathers, some of them, to bring some of the color of the texture into his body. And then I'm going to lower the brush size and go the other direction and take some of that back off, because I do want to show that he does have a tail. I just want a little bit of the texture coming over that. But you notice along his feet, I have a pretty good amount of the texture over his feet. I'm going to bring out the detail of this toenail here by bringing this back. And then I'm going to go back the other way, raise the brush up one, and get right in here and take some of this away. This texture works real well with him because his background was already this color. There's a little spot right here that's bugging me. Now that looks pretty good. Now at this point, I'm going to duplicate the texture and I'm going to put it on top and adjust the layer mode. Of course, multiply is too dark. I really like how soft light works with these, but not at full opacity. So I'll bring it down and just kind of work it in, raise it up. About 50%, it brings in some of the color of the bird. I could also move the bird around if I don't like where he is. I tend to like him where I originally had him. So this is where Control Z comes in. You can undo what you just did. Still not satisfied around that beak. I don't know if it's just that I'm not seeing it right. So I'm going to go in a little closer on the bird layer. There's a little line right there. I need to go closer. See how the texture is right over him here? Becomes one with him. You still see what he is. Alright, let's go back to this mask. Adjust the brush and opacity. There's a little line right there that's bugging me. And right here. Brush away some of that. I'm going to try to bring back some of this at the top of his head. Right here. And this, now I'm just tapping. Just very gently bringing back some of that right there. Still on the bird layer. Now let's look at him from a distance. Oh, he's looking pretty good. Now I want to show you something else. Let's turn this layer off here on top. Let's say that I've decided that this particular texture is too harsh for this bird. That maybe I want something a little softer. Now the neat thing about this collection that I have included, I've included the very bold textures, but I've also made some changes to them. And I've created a whole duplicate set of the same textures, but in a softer application, I guess you would say. So I'm on Nature Splash number 1, but I also have a Nature Splash 1-2 in the second folder that comes with the download. And I'm going to open that up. See, this is Nature Splash 1. Here's Nature Splash 2. Nature Splash 2 is a softer version of the same texture that I've created. It almost has a watercolor look or feel to it because it's so much softer. So you can, when you're working with a subject, if you decide you like the bold, you could stay with the bold, but if you decide it's too bold, then you can open up the number 2 version in the second folder of the same texture and get a softer look. More dreamy, I guess you would say. I actually like the way the softer look goes with this bird. Because he has such pattern in his feathers competing with the pattern of the texture, it may or may not appeal to some people. The softer one puts more focus on the bird. Let me duplicate the softer one and put it on top and set to soft light at about 50%, which is where I had the other one. Okay, that's the soft one on top. That's nothing on top. Turn off the soft one and go back to the heavier one. So there's our heavy look. And here's our soft look. So by opening up the second file underneath where you've masked away the background of your subject, you can decide if you like the softer look or the bolder look for your subject. So in this collection you get the exact same set of the heavier textures but with the softer application, so that if one's not working for your photo, maybe the other one will. In this case, I really like the way this one looks, the softer one. I'm not sure if I like that soft light layer. It's making this white too bright right here, so I may mask away the white edge. I like the way it makes him pump up a little bit with color, maybe about 30%. And let me mask away some of the edges of this soft light layer, and so that white is not so harsh. Just go around the edges sort of like a vignette. Now that just pumps him up a little bit, but the edges are not as bright as they were before. So just to check again, let's turn off the soft and turn on the heavier. I'm going to merge these and individually and look at both. So let me merge this one, and then I can decide which one I like. And this takes just a minute. When you have several layers, it takes a little longer. Okay, there is the merged one with the heavier application. Now let's put the softer application back on and do another merged one of that. Okay, there's the soft one finished. There's the heavier one finished. At this point, I'll zoom out so I can see the work at a distance as if I'm seeing it across the room. Like this. Now, there's the softer one, there's the heavier one. Softer, heavier. In this case, I do think I like the softer one. And this is why I have included these extras in this package, so that you can decide, because some subjects work well with the heavier ones and some might work better with the softer one. But this way you get the benefit of the same texture and the same colors, just a slightly different application. You pick what's best for your picture and for the mood you're trying to convey. These little songbirds, I'm sure I'll use the heavier textures with some of them, but you I like to think about the subject itself and the type of subject it is. Songbirds are usually small, they're soft, they're sweet, whereas eagles and hawks and birds of prey that I do are usually, they're a more aggressive bird. They're they're more powerful, and so I tend to also go with the essence of my subject when I choose what texture to use. A more powerful, energetic subject like a tiger or a lion or a hawk or an eagle may require or may work better sense, make better sense, I guess I would say, with the stronger texture. But a songbird, something soft and sweet and little and tiny, or a flower, for instance, would be softer. Um, those may work better with the softer version of these textures. All of these textures were created with colors from nature, so they'll all go with your nature subjects, such as your flowers and your foliage and your birds and your animals that you would see out in nature. Um, they can also work well with some other things, though. For instance, let's go back to the first one. I could see I could see something like this one. I could see this one worked into with an architectural element, like a building with some strong lines, or an object with some strong lines, like a vehicle, or just a stationary object that has strong lines. I could see this, the heavier version of this, working well with things like that. So it's not just nature subjects, birds and animals and flowers. You can use them with a variety of things, even people. If you have for instance, what just came to mind is if you have a child that's playing football and doing something very energetic, might work well with this one. But if you have a baby um, laying down sleeping, you might choose the softer version of this texture to integrate with that child, just simply because the mood and the essence of the subject gives you a softer feel, or you want to portray a softer feel. But you have both options available in this set. Um, there's a Let me move this up so you can see all the way at the top. On the cover, you can see all the images included, and you can see an example here of the heavier version, an example here of the same one in the softer version, so you could see the slight differences, but you still have the same colors and patterns of the textures. And so there's 20 in the package, and there's 20 of the softer version, so you get a total of 40 textures here for one price that you can use for your applications. Trying to get my there we go. So this is the website where you go to get the package. It's dailytexture.com. This is the software I'm working in is Topaz Photo Fx Lab. If I wanted to do any adjustments to my finished image right here, I could go into any of these Topaz modules that I've purchased and make any kind of adjustments at this point, which the Photo Fx Lab is the host that holds all of these. And that's why I often work through this, so I can access any of these quickly if I wanted to add more detail in the bird, or give him a little bit more clarity, or adjust his color tones, or anything like that I could do in any of these modules over here. If I wanted to give him a completely different look, I could go to Topaz Restyle. If I wanted to make him more painterly, I could go to Topaz Simplify. So with this, in the description of this video, I will have a link to dailytexture.com. I will have a link to this specific Nature Splash collection, and I will also give you a link to Photo Fx Lab and the Topaz products. And you could choose, if you haven't purchased these products, you could choose which ones you might want to purchase from the main page. They show them all on the main page, so you'll see that at that link. Um, I hope this gives you a good introduction to these textures and what you can do with them, and I look forward to seeing your creations. Be sure to share them on the Daily Texture Facebook page, and there's also a group on Facebook if you would like to join called Artistry Beyond the Camera. And if you can find that group on Facebook and send a application, or not an application, but join, I will approve your membership, and you can participate with sharing your creations that you make with these textures and other textures, and just associating with like-minded people who like to take their photos to the next level using textures and painterly processes and all kinds of fun things. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.